Hello everybody, and welcome to Sports Source, your number one source of sports, and today we are talking about the biggest NBA draft busts from each draft year, starting from 2008 all the way to 2016. But before we do that, smash that like button and subscribe for more NBA news and discussions. Without further ado, let's begin the video. So, starting in 2008, it's a tie between Michael Beasley and OJ Mayo. Beasley was the second overall pick in this draft, and OJ Mayo was the third overall pick. Some notable players drafted after them include Russell Westbrook and Kevin Love. Now, when Beasley was in college, he averaged 20 points per game in his only season at Kansas State. Beasley had a good beginning of his career with the Heat, where in his rookie season, he averaged 14 points per game and a good shooting year. And in his second year, he averaged 15 points and 6 rebounds, but shot inefficiently. Once he got traded to Minnesota as a cap dump due to LeBron and Bosh signing with the Miami Heat, Beasley averaged 19 points per game with decent efficiency. After that, his career really went downhill and was bounced around the league. Michael Beasley didn't succeed in the NBA, not because of his skill, but him being unprofessional, bad work ethic, and smoking a lot of weed, as well as just being a bad locker room presence. Now, as for OJ Mayo, he also did very good in his single college season, averaging 21.5 points and 3 rebounds with efficient shooting. From there, he was drafted by the Grizzlies team that had Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, Rudy Gay, and Kyle Lowry. In his rookie season, he averaged 19 points per game with efficient shooting in 38 minutes a game. After that, he averaged 18 points per game with similar shooting numbers in 38 minutes per game. After his first 2 seasons, he averaged 12 points per game over 6 seasons, and he played with the Grizzlies as well as the Bucks and Mavericks. The problem with OJ was his stunted development and not finding stability with an organization, as well as his drug problem that eventually got banned from the NBA. Next up is the 2009 draft class, and I chose the second overall pick by the Memphis Grizzlies, Hasheem Thabeet. Hasheem failed in the NBA for lots of reasons. He only started playing basketball at 16 years old, and he was a very raw player. He was drafted so high because of his 7'3" frame, and you can't teach size, but Memphis's poor player development completely ruined him. He averaged 14, 11, and 4 blocks in college, but immediately flopped in the NBA after averaging 2 points per game, 2 fouls per game, 1 block a game, and 3 rebounds a game over the course of his 5-season NBA career. My honorable mention for the 2009 draft class is Johnny Flynn, and of course we all know him as the point guard taken from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he was taken before 2-time MVP and 3-time champ Steph Curry, one of the biggest what-if questions in NBA history. For the 2010 draft class, I have Evan Turner, who was selected second overall by the Philadelphia 76ers. When he was drafted, he was projected to be an all-star and a player that can do it all. But once he hit the NBA, it was shown that he is an inefficient scorer, and his impact on the court has been questioned. The 76ers' poor development also didn't really help his case. If you look at some of the players taken after Evan Turner, like DeMarcus Cousins and Paul George, it really makes this selection look a lot worse for the Philadelphia 76ers. For the 2011 draft, it has to be Derek Williams, who was selected second overall by the Minnesota Timberwolves. In college, he showed he could be a great scorer with a promising jump shot, but those things did not transfer over to the NBA. It also doesn't help that he's a bad defender, and the Timberwolves' development was awful. Not to mention he was drafted over guys like Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson, just to name a few. For the 2012 draft, it's Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Now, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist isn't a bad NBA player. It's just he didn't turn out into the player he needed to be for a second overall draft pick. Some people could argue that the 5th overall pick from this draft, Thomas Robinson, was an even bigger bust, but even though he isn't in the league anymore, and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist still is, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist had higher expectations on him. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist hasn't had that much NBA success, and due to his lack of an offensive game, terrible, notorious, terrible, awful jump shot, and overall just being just an athlete, hasn't really showed that he could be anything more than that. So for the 2013 NBA draft class, there's not much that needs to be said about the first overall pick from 2013, Anthony Bennett, and probably the biggest draft bust of all time, in my opinion and in most people's opinion. He's just flat out terrible. Now, he did get signed by the Houston Rockets this offseason, and he has a chance to redeem himself, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And he was just flat out terrible, and he shouldn't have been drafted first. But even at the time, the pick was questionable, and I'm not going to keep going on about how terrible Anthony Bennett is, because we already know it, and if you don't already know how bad Anthony Bennett is, just watch some videos online just tearing him apart, because he was not supposed to be picked at this pick, and he really let everyone down, especially in the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. For the 2014 draft, I chose Dante Exum over guys like Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker. The reason Wiggins isn't the biggest draft bust in this draft class, in my opinion, is because I still have some faith left in him, and he's also had some seasons where he's averaged 20 plus points. He's been really disappointing so far, but he's not a complete bust yet in my eyes. As for Jabari Parker, injuries have really derailed his career, and him being bounced around the league doesn't really help his case. As for Dante Exum, though he has no excuses, injuries have really hurt him, including the ACL injury and the shoulder injuries he's had. But unlike Jabari Parker, Dante hasn't shown what he can do when healthy. When Jabari Parker was healthy, he was a 20-point per game scorer. And to be honest, I don't think that Dante Exum will ever be that great. It also doesn't help that the Jazz have given up on him, and they've given up on Dante Exum a long time ago. For the 2015 draft class, I have Jahlil Okafor. Now, some people may disagree with me because we've seen flashes of greatness with the Sixers and for a short period of time with the Pelicans last season, but his game just has not translated into today's NBA because of his lack of floor spacing and horrendous defense. He's just a classic back-to-the-basket player that just doesn't fit in today's NBA. Now, Okafor was a beast in college for Duke, but I feel like the 76ers' poor player development when they drafted Okafor, as well as no team giving him a real chance, really derailed Okafor's career, and I don't think he could bounce back from that. For the 2016 draft class, I have Dragan Bender. Now, I know he's only 21 years old and he has time to turn his career around because he just signed with the Milwaukee Bucks and he's out of that Phoenix Suns organization, but I don't think that would happen. Part of him being drafted so high was riding the Porzingis hype when he got drafted. So the Suns just seen another 7-foot European big man who could stretch the floor, but the reality is Dragan Bender is just awful and couldn't get minutes on the Suns for the past 3 seasons. In his first 3 seasons in his career, he couldn't get minutes on the Phoenix Suns, probably the worst team over the past 3 seasons in the NBA. It also doesn't help that the Suns didn't really give him a chance, but I can't blame the Suns because Dragan Bender has never given them a reason to give them a chance. Now, I haven't mentioned the biggest draft bust from the 2017 and 2018 draft class, and that's just because it's way too early to tell. Like, these are really recent draft classes, and we don't know who's going to be a bust from these years, but I'm just going to throw names out there who's just been disappointing for these past couple seasons, and, they still have lots of time to bounce back and turn their career around, but these are the players right now that, if their careers ended right now, they would be considered draft busts in my eyes. The first one is Frank Ntilikina. He was drafted by the New York Knicks over guys like Dan Smith Jr., who they ironically have right now. But, he just hasn't really been given a chance in that New York Knicks organization. They've kind of given up on him. And this season, there's a lot of players ahead of him on the depth chart that I just can't see him going ahead of. And I think that he just needs a change of scenery, a new team that will give him a chance. But also, he did really good for the FIBA World Cup as I'm pretty sure they won gold. And, he was a big contributor to that team. And I hope that the New York Knicks, or at least some team in the NBA, could give him a chance. Also, Josh Jackson is another player from that 2017 draft class who I consider probably going to be a bust. He's had a lot of off-court issues in the NBA that I just don't want to talk about. And if you want to see that, you could, Google it. But, when he was out of college, he was in that package deal that would have sent Kyrie to Phoenix, but the Suns didn't want to do it because they believed in Josh Jackson, and they lost all hope in him, and they traded him for literally nothing. He was compared to Kawhi out of the draft, 4th overall pick by the Phoenix Suns, and he just looked like he could be a really good fit next to Devin Booker, and that hasn't happened, and he's actually been training in the G League for the Grizzlies right now, which isn't good if you're not even getting minutes on the Memphis Grizzlies, who look like they're going to be a terrible team this offseason, or this upcoming season. They're looking like a terrible team, and that's not because they don't have any talent, it's just because they're a young team in a rebuilding phase. Moving on to the last player from the 2017 draft class, I have Markelle Fultz. Now, I know he was the 1st overall pick, and we need to give him more time, and I'm a big believer in giving him more time because I think that he has the potential to shine in Orlando. But for the time being, if his career ended, he would be a biggest draft bust. Probably one of the weirdest 1st overall picks and weirdest draft busts of all time. There's that whole shoulder thing, but he's been looking really good. He looks like he can be a very good player for the Magic this upcoming season, and I expect a lot coming out of him this upcoming season with the Orlando Magic, maybe even getting that starting point guard spot by the end of the season, or maybe to start off the season with the Magic. Now, for the 2018 draft class, now this is very recent because both these players just had their rookie season, and you can't judge a player off their rookie season that much because we've seen great players not do great in their rookie seasons. But, just to name a few, you got Mo Bamba, who was selected by the Orlando Magic, which was kind of a questionable pick at the time. I really wanted him to go to the Chicago Bulls because they kind of needed him more. I don't know why the Magic took him when they already had Vucevic, and it's just becoming more apparent of a problem in this current NBA a year later because Vucevic re-signed and he's actually gone better from last season when they drafted Mo Bamba. And there's just the big man situation is clogged in Orlando, and I don't really know. Mo Bamba had a bad season last year, a very, very bad season shooting the ball. He struggled with injuries, I know, but it just wasn't really good for him. I hope that he could either get a change of scenery or, start at that power forward spot, but I can't really see him getting minutes over Vucevic, especially since they just re-signed him. Another player from that 2018 draft class who did not do good at all was Kevin Knox. He had a terrible shooting season. He was one of my dark horses for Rookie of the Year, and I thought he was going to put up more numbers more efficiently, but I mean, he did put up some good numbers, but if you look at the efficiency, it just was not good and not looking promising, especially since they now have RJ Barrett and Randall and Mitchell Robinson, guys who look like they have more potential than him, and guys that I think the Knicks are putting more faith into, and their big plan is to also get more free agents and to, get a top pick this year, so that kind of leaves Kevin Knox out. I think that the potential is there, and that he was a very good player in college. I think that he has time to show what he can do. It's only been his first season, but I hope that he could do good for his future NBA career. Thank you all for listening. What do you think of this video? Let me know down in the comment section below who you think the biggest draft class or the biggest draft bust from every draft class is. That's all for me now. Subscribe to join Sports Source Nation, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.